Well, I have joining me now Rotimi Kade. He is an Arise analyst. He is live in New York City. Let's jump in on the top stories so far. First off, we'll start with the global implications of these shooting, particularly in Brown University. How does this incident reflect on the United States' ability to ensure campus state safety, and what implications might this have for international students considering, studying in the U.S.?
I think that's a very good question, and this is the same question that has been on the minds of so many U.S. Citizens about when will this particular, incidents like the mass shootings in campuses come to an end. The very prominent one recently was the Charlie Kirk incident that was, that occurred at a Utah State University. And of course, we've seen so many of those incidents, particularly with this one that just recently, occurred. See, this is a really critical debate that has not actually have any solution to it. There's been several questions about mass shootings and accessibilities to weapons, by people that are not even authorized to even have those weapons, and that's the case that we've seen in different, situations and scenarios. I bet you the person of interest in this case might likely not have the right to own a gun. So how do the gun get to these people? The guns that are on the street is really on the rise, and that's the more reason why people are really critical about what the government is doing, irrespective of the parties. Now, to your second question about, what does it entails for, foreign students coming to the United States, I think that's really a big issue, for foreign students who wants to study in the United States. Seeing all of this, a lot of them will want to ask questions as to their safety, and also maybe have a change of mind and go somewhere else. But obviously, the implication of that. That will mean that universities will be losing a lot of revenue as a result of that.
Now, since you talked about, gun debate, let's talk about gun control debate here, given that the Trump administration also believes that you need a gun to protect yourself. Now, given the issue of mass shooting in the United States, what international pressure can be applied to encourage stricter gun control laws? Because when you talk about this often, the people say the issue is gun regulation in the U.S. and accessibility to these weapons, and considering the gun industry as well. And how might this impact the U.S. diplomatic relations?
Well, first of all, there's absolutely no international pressure that could be mounted on, the reduction of gun proliferation in the United States. This is, the People's Second Amendment rights, to own a gun. It's right there in the Constitution. It's going to take, a camel to enter into the eye of the needle down for that particular section to be taken out of the Constitution. This is a debate that has been on for a long time. The Democratic Party believe that there should be some sort of gun regulations, but the Republican Party, the vast majority of them, do not believe in that. So I'm looking at the structure politically, as it were. Republicans control the White House, they control the Senate, they control also the House. So how do you think that is going to go? Your guess is as good as mine. So this is something that most likely is going to be talked about in the news, but at the end of the day, we're not going to have reach a conclusive end to getting these things out of the people that don't need it. We have people in this country, millions of people that own guns. But you don't see them shooting, going out and, in the mass shooting. But again, the people, as I said before, 99% of mass shootings that you've seen in the United States are within a certain age range. And at that point, you see that a majority of them do not have the right to own a gun. So is having a gun the right a good thing in the United States, as it were, looking at the Constitution? Yes, it is. But again, your your um, your ability to use it, for the purpose at which you have it is, something that is a personal. So in international pressure is not going to work. It's not going to work. We've seen that in the past. Even Democratic, presidents have tried, reducing, the proliferation of guns, and it's like you're stamping on the rights of citizens, people who believe that constitutionally they have the right to own a gun. So, but, again, everything boils down to discretion and how, the government can counter it with some measures that may reduce, not totally eliminate, gun shootings in the United States.
Now, the issue of international pressure aside, we're looking at how the gun regulation can be fully in effect. You talked about certain, age range that have access to these guns that shouldn't. And one wonders how they have, the access to these guns. That's why I mentioned the gun industry as well. So there is a loophole. Are there loopholes that could be blocked, especially with the laws in the U.S.?
Well, some of the advocates advocated for a broader background checks, which means that anybody that wants to own a gun should have a much a deeper background checks. I think that is a very critical part that is not being fulfilled in a majority of cases. And some of these guns, as I said, it's some of them don't go to gun shops or go to the appropriate authority to actually get this gun. Some of them get it, under the table, kind of, black market, where you cannot be traced, because once you own a gun in the United States, you have all your social security details, all your information, everything is on a database, where at any point in time, if there's a certain things they can trace who has what and what kind of bullets and all that. They have all this information. But in most of the cases, some of these people do not, follow due procedure in getting these guns and these weapons. And that is the aspect that I think both of us agree that need to be worked on.
Let's talk about international cooperation here. How can international organizations such as, Interpol or the United Nations, assist in investigating and responding to, incidences like this? Is it that the U.S. is rid of, or independently we're saying it doesn't need any sort of assistance outside, given that the suspect is still at large? I mean, we could see from the CCTV footage that the person is still at large, even though someone was caught at first, but the person had to be cleared, and the person is obviously still at large. So are we talking, how can AI, CCTV, even the hall in which the, gun shooting happened, there was no CCTV, to have that. So there are multifaceted issues we're talking about here. How can either Interpol, United Nations, or even the FBI, or, introducing AI, all of that in the campus or, in the halls to ensure that cases like this can be easily tackled?
Well, first of all, the FBI director has actually responded. If you go on his Twitter page, it did say that the FBI is actually assisting local law enforcement in Rhode Island, and of course establish a common post to investigate the lead. They've also activated the cellular analysis survey team to provide critical geolocation capabilities. So to say that the United States do need assistance, I think is an overstatement. They have a lot of capabilities to actually trace down. There's a person of interest who is actually in custody right now, and his identity has been concealed for now, but they believe that there could be some other person of interest at large who they are trying to see how they can zero down and see to avoid or kind of like avoid, further shootings. The authorities in province said that, hey, everybody should shelter in place, don't go outside, don't meet with people that you don't know, because there could be an active shooter out there who may cause more havoc to the community and also at large. So there's all security operatives that are, now in motion in taming down, tracking this persons of interest to make sure that to avoid further casualties. Currently, we have about 9 right now, and about 2 in critical, 6 in critical conditions, 2 already dead. And, yes, can United States look for, outside assistance or resources? Yes, they can. But in this case, where it's a kind of a lone wolf incident, I think the FBI, the CIA, the local authorities, they have more than it takes, to actually tame this to the board. But again, this is what the analysts always say, that it's kind of too little, too late sometimes. When incidences like this happen, why not be proactive before these shooters go out there to shoot people? Why can't you prevent it, get them arrested? We've seen cases like that, but at a very, very minimal level.
I mean, for a country such as the US to have 389 deaths in this year alone, or mass shootings this year alone, that's something, to worry about, of course. But how might this incident also, affect countries such as Saudi Arabia, China, who also have, a lot of students in the US studying?
Well, I think the best thing we have always sent diplomatically is to send advisories to their students in campuses and give them what, basically, the safety rules and regulations and how they can keep themselves safe in such situations. I believe that the government or the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, China, and any other foreign nationals will definitely know, they would have gotten, something from the embassies on how to keep themselves safe in critical situations like this.
So let's talk about, terrorism classification. I don't know, you're not a security expert, but should this incident be classified as an act of terrorism, and what would be the implications for, intelligence sharing?
Well, in cases like this, I think it's being classified as domestic terrorism. Yeah, and, we've seen, cases for people, survivals, and some of the shooters, being charged to court of felony charges, first degree murder, homicide, whatever it is, it's always been classified as a domestic terrorism, which in some cases, security authorities are taken very seriously because they've grown in numbers, compared to, foreign terrorists, as we've seen in 9/11. But, for, as you said, like over 300 people have lost their lives as a result of mass shootings all across the United States this year, is something of concern also to the government. And I think they're doing everything within their capacity to bring the number down or eliminate it completely.
Also, I'll bring this to your, before as well. How can, the U.S. also address mental health issues that may contribute to such incidents? And what role can global health organizations play? I mean, campuses need to begin to look inward to see how, they handle mental cases, because this is just the second day of the final exams. So this could have a long-lasting impact on the students.
Well, that's a very good question. I think we've seen cases, this, mass shootings, where some of, the perpetrators are categorized again into having mental health issues, and that's a big question about mental health in the country. Excuse me. In some cases, we've seen those, mental health issues on the rise, especially among, the youth between 18 to about maybe like 25, 30, and the health system generally in the country is one of the best you can get in the world. But again, the question is, are people actually asking for help when they need it, especially when it comes to mental health? There's a lot of stress, there's a lot of bills to pay, there's a lot of pressure everywhere. And I tell you what, this is, part of the things that are not being fully addressed. And I think if the government, look at it holistically and put all these things, as part of the things to consider, I think this could also help, both the students on campus and off campus, and anybody at all that has, this sort of issues.
Thank you so much, Rotimi Kade, for joining us from New York City. We had to talk about the Brown University shooting right there with him. He is an Arise analyst.